So I'm head of economic development, as you can see. I'm not head of purchasing and procurement. I'm not an expert in that field. But it should become clear why economic development is, why I came from economic development to talk to you today as we go along. It's certainly key to our economic development and key to making sure that our people, the people of Croydon, benefit from economic development going on in the borough. So I'm going to talk about Croydon's focus, about the journey, the social value journey, which we've been on it a while, but it's still only just begun, to say the least. And then what we're heading off to next. So we are a borough of London, and we're in the south of London. And that is the centre of Croydon, or at least it was a little while ago, because we've in fact developed a lot more since then, if you can call it development. We've built numerous tower blocks, a nice big purple one for those who have passed through. In fact, we're building even more tower blocks. And there's an interesting issue around that Section 106 social value you gain from tower blocks that have been largely produced off-site, probably not even in the country, and now they're going to be assembled in a borough. That map also shows the growth zone. So we have an area where we have a huge amount of growth going on, including we're expecting a new shopping centre. So that's going to be a Westfield centre. But you can also see off to probably the south, and therefore the green Croydon. And if you were looking the other way, then you would see very much densely populated London borough. So much more deprivation over there. So Croydon's undergoing a huge investment in the shopping centre, in the buildings, in all sorts of ways. And the key for my department in economic development is to make sure that the people of Croydon benefit from that, because I think the benefits can be easily lost to the local population. And it was an interesting discussion we had this morning about how do you not become too localised in your thinking when you're thinking about social value. Because if we're going to truly get enough construction workers onto our new massive construction sites, are they all going to come from Croydon? Or even our targets, 50%, 20%? Really, how many construction workers do we have? And how many of them can work here and don't already have jobs on all the other construction sites in Croydon? So we have issues there, but we have a big population. We have the biggest population in London. We have a big youth population too. In fact, a quarter of our population is 19 or below. So this very much focuses the mind, and we'll explain why we have a lot of our social value objectives around benefiting youth, benefiting our young people, preparing them for that world we saw earlier, in which all jobs are taken by AI and life is becoming more miserable. Preparing them, making sure that life is going to be good for them and that they benefit from our contracts and our broader growth. So we have a Choose Your Future programme running through, and everything links into that. We recently recruited a young mayor whose focus, as all the nominees, all their focuses were on jobs, future job prospects, how do we get jobs, and then also there was personal security, which we would naturally expect, and mental health. So mental health is also an issue that we're focusing on. So our social value journey. So a key element of what we have done is the social value commissioning strategy and the toolkit. And that toolkit is to support managers, people writing those contracts, deciding what's important, deciding what to put in, and to support the business community so that they can bid for those. We do have some emphasis on trying to use local employers. Absolutely. It can't be everything, but we do try and we do work on different ways of making that more possible. We have spent some years testing and checking things out and trying things and learning from each contract, big contracts as they come through, and I'll go through some learning points. And then we fully launched Value Croydon with a Brill website, which then local businesses can look on to find out what's available, what contracts are available, and then also seek help with that. So a big learning point from some of our contracts, which have been absolutely focused on micro businesses, on the voluntary sector, on social enterprises, is that they don't know how to bid for those contracts. They don't know what it is we're talking about in terms of social value, and therefore we need to provide that support, make sure that we're there to help them to do so. And that's something that my team does in partnership with our procurement colleagues. 2016, the London Living Wage was introduced to our contract requirements, and Croydon became a London Living Wage employer itself. A very important part, and also really quite tricky for a lot of businesses. And that goes on to 2017, the Good Employer Charter. So my team oversees the Good Employer Charter, and I'm going to talk a little more about it, but one of the things, the 4 things you have to do, one of them is the London Living Wage, and that's barrier number 1. And whenever we talk about it, that's the issue that a lot of people bring up. But it's very, very important both for people to be able to live in Croydon as well as work there, because rent, house prices are so high. And also then they spend their money in Croydon, which is also very good. And we know that people are more likely to stay where they get the job with the London Living Wage, because we already see it in Croydon. So our cleaning contract has a London Living Wage involved, and that meant that our cleaners stopped being paid £6.50 an hour, and at the time moved to £9.25 an hour. And they are now more loyal and more likely to stick with it and do a better job. They look happier. Yeah, they can live nearer, that sort of thing. You know, basics, to be honest, absolute basics. So the Good Employer Charter is our way of bringing social value to a wider audience. So you have to be signing up to the Good Employer Charter to get a contract, or to get a big contract with Croydon. Smaller contracts we negotiate, but you're certainly working towards it. So there are 4 elements that as I said, and it's my team's job to try and help businesses to do this, to get this element sorted. We have a lot of people signed up. This is just a selection of them. Not all of them have contracts with Croydon Council. As you'd imagine, IKEA, not a big council contractor. But very important to Croydon, employs an awful lot of people. And is important to bringing people into Croydon too. So some people who live in South London will only know Croydon because it has IKEA. So pay the London Living Wage. You don't have to be a London Living Wage employer. We used to have that as you have to sign up to that, but we found that was an even bigger barrier because they needed to go through a process, and that was quite difficult, but we still encourage it and we are signed up to it. Croydon Works is another part of my team, part of economic growth. That's our brokerage, our job brokerage service. So we're saying to all our contractors, employ local. We're saying to all in our Section 106 is you need to employ local. And they're all saying, how do we do that? Really? And we're saying, yes, you do it, and you use Croydon Works. And Croydon Works will help you find those people. If Croydon Works can't find you those people, then you can go further afield. But you have to use Croydon Works first. And they would freely admit there are specialisms they don't do so well in. So if you're looking for architects, probably not them. But if you're looking for young people looking for apprenticeship opportunities in a huge variety of fields, that's them. If you're looking for a huge range of people, to be honest, they will be there. Because they don't just provide a job, they prepare those people to get that job. And if there are barriers, they will find a way of solving that. So they work in partnership with training providers to fill skills gaps. They help them prepare for an interview. And we have recruited all of our apprentices, and that is our current crop, through Croydon Works. And they are truly fabulous. Here's an example of a company that actually their contract began in 2012 and has a potential 15-year run to it. So it's a long and solid contract. They use Croydon Works to do all of their recruitments. They have a huge number of apprentices, which we do like, and it is measurable, which is good. They had a social value award criteria in their contract, so all those years ago, but it was very small. It was really very small. And they pointed that out to us in a recent evaluation, that it was too small. The bigger it is, the more we'll pay attention to it, is what they told us. So therefore, we made it bigger in all the contracts from then onwards. They employ Croydon residents and largely do so. They provide work experience placements. They are involved. They have an Access Fund which they use to support various initiatives in the borough. They support schools directly with different activities. So they have, I think, generally done a good job. Could they do more? Could we put more pressure on for them to do more? Possibly, yes. Also, another element of that contract when evaluated is how flexible are you on certain things? You know, probably too flexible on some things, but when it comes to one apprentice per million, really? Is that always relevant? Is that always what you want to aim at? Or do you want to aim our resource at something else? And, you know, can you have those standardised requirements? Really? So the commissioning and procurement team recognise that, and will put different requirements in different contracts and have negotiation around that. Another big factor in the Good Employer Charter is include all. So you'll have spotted the same woman there. She's a councillor. And actually what that emphasises is there is a political element to what we're doing, and we do have those people to meet the needs of. So if we're talking about measurement, the only time I've been asked for measurement is from councillors. So we do have to bear that in mind. So include all is around making sure that you are an inclusive employer, that you have policies around that, and that you are in practice an inclusive employer. We provide lots of opportunities for them to meet. Well, we had a reverse jobs fair where we had young people with special educational needs and disabilities meeting lots of employers, and we had quite a number of young people employed from there. And then we have buy local, which is about buying from your local, smaller businesses usually, but from providing opportunities there. So we have done an evaluation and we have learnt a lot. So we have learnt that we need to be flexible with what we're asking for, because some businesses can provide different, better things than just one apprenticeship per million, for example. We've learned to break down our contracts so that some smaller businesses can get some of those contracts, can make the most of those opportunities. We've learned that you definitely need to put social value as an expectation in a competitive way, because otherwise it will be omitted, or it will be a later discussion. So we had a send transport contract. It had a later discussion, and it was very positive. But did it lead to anything? Well, it's debatable. They definitely employ Croydon residents. Did they do that anyway? Probably, yes. So we need to be early with our demands and very clear with those demands. And our biggest evaluation was last year. Our Small Business Commission found that despite all of the work, our small and medium enterprises still need a lot more help to make the most of the wealth of the borough. And so we are now doing the Croydon Means Business, a year of business where we are supporting with procurement workshops so that SMEs can make more of what we're doing. Thank you.
Very much indeed.